Ich bin gespannt, wie ihr Haus aussieht.
Ich bin gespannt über die Story, aber gut, schauen wir uns erstmal die Inneneinrichtung an. Erstaunlich, sie hat eine Safe-Location innen drin, das hätte ich jetzt nicht gedacht. Na denn, dann erzähl mal, gute Frau, da dürfen wir jetzt Frage-Antwort spielen mit Multiple-Choice-Fragen, das wäre auch möglich.
Ja.
First, I want to thank you. Thank you for helping out the people of Ilias village. As soon as I'm inside Michaela's house, I thank her again. If the villagers had not been teleported here, they would have been completely slaughtered.
No, I just regret that everyone couldn't have been saved. We were attacked at the same time, so the mass transfer didn't go off as well as we wanted.
Ronnie's face flashes into my mind. He must have been heading to his herb garden. Not in his house, so he didn't make it. But how can you use that kind of magic? Just what is this village?
You're slow, aren't you? Haven't you noticed it yet? This village is for the hidden, just as its name implies. The ones hiding are not humans.
War zu erwarten, ich hätte nur das Idiot noch irgendwie dazu gerechnet von ihr.
Ja, ist es, ja. Alice schwächelt ein bisschen, ne?
Ich habe das Gefühl, ein langer Dialog steht uns gerade bevor. Und wenn nicht wenigstens ein Idiot vorkommt, dann, keine Ahnung. Dann müssen wir eine Idiot-Steuer einführen. Oder jedes Mal, wenn nicht Idiot kommt, also darf eine Steuer einführen. Irgendeine Steuer muss eingeführt werden.
Oder ich trinke einfach mit den Äs mit dir zusammen aus Solidarität.
Vielleicht. Gucken wir mal, wie viele Äs noch kommen im Vergleich zu Idiots, wenn überhaupt. Das könnte auch so ein Gespräch sein, wo Luka sehr viel am Ehen ist, je nachdem, wie viel Aufklärung hier betrieben wird.
Ja, mal gucken.
So, they're all monsters?
Yes, most of the inhabitants here are monsters and many are elves. Those who hated the conflict between humans and monsters fled here to live in hiding. Though there are few, there are also some fallen angels here.
Fallen angels?
There are a few angels who rejected Ilias' way of thinking about monsters. Chased from the heavens, they moved here to the surface world. They are referred to as fallen angels.
Could it be you're one too?
Yes, I am one of those fallen angels. The first of the angel sisters created by Ilias. I am the older of us twins.
First angel? If that's true, she must be really powerful. The very first of all the angels.
Wird wohl wahrscheinlich auch einen guten Grund haben, dass Rapunzel sich so schnell verzogen hat.
Ich glaube, sie steht irgendwie im Zusammenhang mit Eden, weil wenn diese Eden-Dame so viel Macht hat, dann dürfte sie die Schwester oder eben auch einer der ersten Engel sein, vermute ich mal. Aber ich gehe stark von der Schwester irgendwie aus.
Ja, vielleicht sagt sie uns ja noch was dazu.
Ja.
Let me tell you everything. This story starts several billion years ago, before this world was formed.
Several billions of years?
Before the world was formed. That's a strange expression. Was this world not created by Ilias? No, this world was not created by someone. Though it may sound strange, this world was not artificially created by an intelligence.
What? Das bedeutet, wir kommen jetzt zur Entstehungsgeschichte. Es war doch der Urknall, wir haben es von Anfang an richtig gehabt.
Ja.
Then Ilias is...
Several billions of years after our sun was formed, the primordial holy and dark magics were circulating around its chaotic atmosphere. Darkness and light were kept apart by the chaos of its atmosphere, so to speak. Each of those two forces slowly acquired their own will. Ilias was born from the holy magics, and from the darkness the dark god Eliphaz came forth. Dark god Eliphaz? That dark god conveyed herself as the first monster lord. It could be said that Ilias and Eliphaz were the incarnation of dark and light itself.
So Ilias didn't make the world. She just made up the story and lied about it. Most humans around the world believe her story, that Ilias was the creator of the world.
Her title as creator of the world is obviously a lie. But the one who guided life from that star was certainly Ilias. The ego of the sacred fight began to sprout others. Light, nicht fight, sorry.
Yep.
That is, the goddess Ilias began forming other beings from herself. Imitating herself, she created two twin life forms she called angels.
Twin primordial angels. And you're the older one. The woman standing before me is an offshoot of Ilias' self. Now that I look, she does look similar to Ilias.
Aber hübscher.
Nicht ganz so viel pompöse Flügel und luftige Kleider, ne? Das macht schon einen besseren Eindruck, wenn es ein bisschen weniger ist manchmal.
Absolut. After that, Ilias created many offshoots of herself. In other words, she created angels. Through trial and error, she was making creations similar to her own existence. But though she made them of her own holy element, each angel had a will of their own. Ilias was never satisfied with just that.
Why was she going so far to try to create something like her? Like herself?
Perhaps she was lonely. Since the first formed, she spent many millions of years alone. As darkness itself, Eliphaz and Ilias could never cross. For a long time, Ilias was absolutely alone. ... Now back to the story. Ilias gave up on making copies of herself and looked toward the life flourishing on the surface. This is several 100 million years ago now. At that time, the surface life of this planet consisted of primitive reptiles and fish. She came to the surface to try to give some of those beings intelligence. See, to artificially evolve them. Yes, that's correct. Trying to make intelligences. Davon gibt es im Plural?
Ja, wahrscheinlich
Okay.
intelligent Kreaturen, vielleicht deswegen der Mehrzahl.
Yeah. Trying to make intelligences similar to her, she inspected the various creatures and eliminated some. She quickly crossed off the giant reptiles roaming the surface and destroyed them all. To
Wow.
make it easier.
Das bedeutet im Endeffekt, ich meine, erstmal Kudos, also wirklich Respekt dafür, dass das Spiel jetzt schon wieder so dermaßen viel Wert auf die Story und auf den Hintergrund dazu legt, dass es nicht nur wieder um Monstermädchen geht, sondern dass da wirklich so dermaßen viel hintersteckt. Aber im Endeffekt bedeutet das, Ilias ist in unserer Welt gesehen jetzt mal, Ilias war diejenige, die dieses Dinosaurier ausgerottet hat.
Ja.
Das ist irgendwie so eine tolle Erklärung, habe ich das Gefühl. Was hat damals die Dinosaurier ausgelöscht? Waren es Meteore? War es die Eiszeit? Nein, es war die Göttin Ilias. Jetzt haben wir's.
Warum nicht, ne?
Klingt gut,
Kann
klingt
man mal
gut.
machen. To make it easier for mammals to flourish, she changed the environment and vegetation. Through hundreds of millions of years of trial and error, she created both small and large mammals. Repeating her process of selection and elimination, eventually monkeys came forth. From more selection and elimination, they grew into humans, and at last Ilias declared humans complete. She was not able to make humans quickly with her power as a goddess. Ilias really isn't almighty at all. It was as primitive as selected breeding of livestock. Ilias' aim to have direct control on the genome did not come until much later.
It's a little bit confusing, but it's true Ilias created humans, isn't it? No, not created, I guess. More like raised? But how she raised humans is a lot more involved than her story.
Created is still not accurate. Though she may have influenced the evolution, humans appeared on their own. They stood on their own 2 feet and became the rulers of the surface world. Making contact with them in their primitive state, Ilias became the source of their worship. But an unwanted existence also lived on the ground. They were the monsters created by the dark god Eliphaz. If Ilias created humans by selective breeding, how did the founding Monster Lord create monsters? I'm sure I don't need to explain it to you, Monster Lord, but the element of darkness interferes with the genes of an organism. The dark god Eliphaz was able to modify creatures with her own power. Much more directly than Ilias, she was able to influence creatures' growth. I see. As expected, the Monster Lord was more skilled than Ilias. Das hört sie gerne, ne? Da gehen die Mundwinkel auch nach oben.
Mhm. Der Teil des Gesprächs, der sie am meisten interessiert, gefühlt.
Ja, es hat auch wieder gute Laune, weißt du? Erst kriegt sie Süßigkeiten um die Ohren gehauen, dann solche Aussagen hier, passt.
Ist nicht alles schlecht heutzutage.
Genau. It was not a factor of ability, the difference was due simply to the properties of their own magic. Ilias' holy magic excels at influencing the spirit, so she was able to more easily impart matters of spirit and soul. Now back to the story. The dark god Elephes also formed offshoots of herself.
Ich will dich nicht immer unterbrechen, tut mir leid, aber...
Alles gut, mach ruhig.
Guck dir das mal an, ey. Ich meine, man sieht es nicht und ich bin so froh, weil ich wette, wir irgendwas in dieser Art werden wir später noch beginnen, aber allein schon, ohne jetzt näher an den Bildschirm ranzugehen, weil auch mein Mikrofon natürlich vor mir hängt, Leute, aber allein schon der Umriss von dieser dunklen Göttin und die Gesichtszüge, die sich in den Schatten abdeuten. Also, wenn man Alice jemals in eine ernstere und richtig fiese Variante verwandeln wollte, das sieht definitiv so aus.
Ja, da bin ich auch gespannt aufs Endprodukt. Und die werden mit Sicherheit nicht nur die Silhouette skizziert haben, wir werden das Gesamtpaket noch zu sehen bekommen.
Ja, die Chancen stehen gut, da hast du recht.
The first was known as Elephes the second Monster Lord. In addition, Dark God Elephes combined her own genes with those of the creatures that dwelt on the surface and created 6 monsters. They are the legendary monsters that came to be known as the 6 Ancestors. All monsters that exist to this day can trace their blood back to one of these 6.
Hatten wir schon mal von denen gehört? Ich wollte gerade sagen, Luka fragt sich dasselbe. 6 Ancestors. Didn't Promstein say something about them? That they were sealed. All of the monsters of the world tracing back to 6 ancestors. The first time I heard about this was today. Ja, ich nämlich auch. Ich kann mich auch gar nichts dran erinnern. Oh je, wenn wir gegen diese 6 Typen antreten dürfen irgendwann mal. Oh wow. Und so viele Möglichkeiten tun sich gerade auf an Gegnern, die in der Zukunft auch taufen könnten. Oh mein Gott.
Ja, ich habe gerade das Gefühl, als würde das Spiel jetzt erst beginnen und das sind die nächsten 6 großen Bereiche, die wir abfrühstücken werden und dann geht's am Ende auf einen großen Showdown zu.
Ich stelle einfach mal die Frage in den Raum für die Zuschauer jetzt gerade, die das hier schon gespielt haben. Ist der dritte Teil zeitlich gesehen länger als die ersten beiden jeweils für sich gesehen? Weil klar, das hier ist jetzt sozusagen nicht mal, das ist ja jetzt das Finale der gesamten Trilogie, zu Recht auch, aber ich frage mich wirklich, nimmt Teil 3 deswegen auch mehr Platz ein, was die Story angeht und was die Spiellänge angeht? Das würde mich unter anderem auch freuen, weil ganz ehrlich, wenn sich die Story richtig Zeit nimmt, um das alles hier bis zum Ende radikal durchzuziehen. Also ich habe das Gefühl, wenn wir mit dem Spiel durch sind, dann sitze ich nur hier in meinem Stuhl, heb die Arme Richtung Himmel und sage danke dafür. Und das war's dann. Ich hoffe es einfach mal.
Ich auch. Aber ich habe das Gefühl, also gerade jetzt nach dem Gespräch mit ihr, also wir sind ja noch mittendrin, aber dass da noch viel auf uns zukommen wird. Ich hoffe es.
Mhm. Oh ja.
Even I have only heard of things like that referenced in ancient legends. I wonder if this Tamamo knows about it, if even Tamamo knows about it, so rum. That story was not handed down to the surface world. After the great monster wars, Ilias tried to wipe out unfavorable facts.
The Great Monster Wars. A huge war between Ilias and the first Monster Lord. Even a child has heard of its existence. But as for what actually happened, other than vague legends, nothing is really known for sure.
Now then, let us talk about the Great Monster Wars. Around 1,000 years ago, the conflict between Elephes and Ilias was approaching a conclusion. At last, the battle between them began on the surface world itself. An army of angels led by Ilias on one side, with legions of monsters led by Elephes on the other. Even humans were dragged into it, and the fighting became fierce. I was an archangel, spearheading assaults by the angel army, crossed swords with those 6 ancestors many times. Of course, my younger sister showed her might on the battlefield at the same time.
So, which side won? The legend says that Ilias won the war, but after hearing all that I have, I'm starting to doubt that.
Ilias was the victor. Are you saying that the first monster lord was defeated by Ilias? I cannot believe that. In terms of the actual status of the war itself, Eliphiz's forces were superior the entire time. The reason Ilias won was due to the cowardly trick. I believe you now.
Nur wegen Alice ist dieser Dialog schon wieder um 20% cooler geworden, ich sag's dir.
Ja, obwohl sie den geringsten Redeanteil hat, aber das ist quasi so das Sahnehäubchen auf dem eh schon leckeren Kuchen. Ja.
Mhm. Punkt. Entschuldige.
Genau.
Das musste sein.
Ja. The clashes between the two gods resulted in terrible destruction. They both realized that if they continued fighting, they would destroy everything. On the verge of destroying the very world itself, Eliphiz hesitated. But Ilias didn't, threatening the very survival of the world.
Threaten? If they continued fighting, they would have destroyed the world?
Ilias went to Eliphiz, telling her to surrender as she never would. If they kept fighting, both of them, the angels, the monsters, and the humans would all perish. But she said that if the Dark God and the six ancestors sealed themselves, she would not lay a hand on the other monsters. What cowardice! No, rather than cowardly. Yes, she was insane. Threatening the extinction of everything, she used the word as a hostage for surrender. Seeing no other path, the Dark God chose to surrender. Along with the six ancestors, they were sealed with a special seal. The six ancestors' great seal. By converting their own magic, the six ancestors used it to seal themselves away. Eliphiz used the same technique to seal herself. Using current technology, Promstein managed to recreate the effects of the seal on Founding Monster Lord. Oh, Founding Monster Lord, how sad. Ach so, das sagt Alice, sorry.
Ja, du liest eine Menge vor.
Founding Monster Lord, how sad. In exchange for a guarantee of safety of her children, she sealed herself away. Was she not concerned that Ilias would break her promise? Of course, Eliphiz knew well Ilias' nature, so they tied in a special trigger that would cancel the seal into their magic. It was to be released if Ilias broke her promise. At that time, the seal would be broken and the Dark God would revive. If Ilias breaks her promise, then she will revive? But how is that judged by... As you know, when a monster dies, the magic returns to the world. Like all things, the magic flows into the atmosphere to be used by the endless cycle of birth and rebirth. If a large amount of dark monster magic were released at once, it would impact that transmigration. So the atmosphere itself would become heavily saturated with dark magic. The amount of holy and dark magic must stay in balance or the seal will break.
Okay. Warum ist das Siegel bis jetzt nicht gebrochen? Ich meine, obwohl wir sind gerade erst am Anfang des Krieges. Ilias hat jetzt erst angefangen mit ihrem Kreuzzug gegen die Welt und gegen die Monster. So viele sind wahrscheinlich noch nicht gestorben. Also macht es schon Sinn, wenn diese Siegel noch nicht deaktiviert wurden. Aber das würde bedeuten, dass praktisch alles andere erst ausgelöscht werden müsste, bevor die Herrschaften wieder aufwachen. Das ist ein bisschen spät, also in puncto Vertragsbedingungen. Da hätte ich vielleicht ein bisschen früher angefangen mit der Wiederbelebung.
Die brauchen wahrscheinlich einfach ein stärkeres Ungleichgewicht als das, was bisher hier passiert ist.
Ja.
Um die Balance, ne, aus dem Konzept zu bringen.
Richtig, dass Ilias praktisch mit ihren Leuten, sagen wir mal, 75% der Macht beherrscht und nicht, wie es jetzt gerade ist, 50-50 eigentlich ist. Theoretisch zumindest.
Ja.
So, if Ilias starts committing genocide against monsters...
Yes, Dark God Eliphiz will awaken from her seal. What? I didn't even know that. That's because this is something Ilias didn't want anyone to know. Wielding her great power, Ilias destroyed the Dark God. That's the story that was most convenient for Ilias.
Wait a second. But Ilias is slaughtering monsters. 30 years ago, she massacred monsters at Remina. And isn't this recreation she's trying to do going to kill all of the monsters?
Of course, Ilias has spent a long time trying to find a way around that. From the moment Dark God Elephys was sealed, she has been thinking of countermeasures, developing a new seal or a way to manipulate the balance, measures for the worst-case scenario if she were to revive. And at last she decided to order her smartest angels to create a new type of monster.
Smart angels. Promstein.
As I said earlier, Elephys was skilled at directly manipulating organisms. Ilias focused on that and ordered her subordinate angels to study the underlying principles. Focused on that, it took them roughly 500 years. As a result, they decided on a policy of letting a monster manage the flow of dark magic. For that purpose, Ilias singled out Elephys the Eighth. When she was struck down by the hero, Ilias saved her life, under the condition that she would manage the dark monster magic as the world was recreated.
That's insane.
Yes, Ilias' strategy has gone way too far. Rebels against her finally started to appear. That was my sister, one of the twin angels that Ilias first created. As expected, some just couldn't bear it any longer, even more for it to be the one of her very first allies. My younger sister seemed to have been questioning Ilias ever since the start of the Great Monster Wars. Her insane way of fighting to the very end, even if it would destroy everything. At her collusion with Elephys the Eighth, she finally broke away. She knew that Ilias would try to destroy humanity one day. My younger sister seemed to know exactly what was going to happen. ... As I said before, my sister led an army of angels. There was only one who could match her might. Therefore I, one of equal power, was chosen to hunt her down. Holding hesitations in my heart, I stood in front of her. The fight with my younger sister was extremely fierce. Suffering serious wounds, she became a fallen angel and escaped to the surface world. Did you let her escape to the surface world on purpose? I cannot say for sure. Doubt in Ilias had already been flaring up in my mind.